Hello everybody, I am Brainy Diode and I am back with another half-baked attempt to differentiate myself. Today, as you may be able to tell from the very top left corner of the screen, I am going to be playing some Nier Automata. This is a collaborative project between Square Enix, some of the best RPG makers around, and Platinum Games, some of the very best action game creators around. And it's a game that I've played on my own quite recently, and it has quickly become one of my absolute favorite action RPGs that I've ever had the pleasure of playing. And I thought that I would like to share that experience with some people that may not be willing or able to drop $60 on the game themselves. Personally, I think that it is well worth experiencing for yourself if you can, but if not, I understand, and hopefully I can share the experience that I've had with it with you. Now, you're never going to see this, but I just attempted to play it in hard mode for this video, and it went horribly, horribly wrong, so instead, I'm going to be chickening out and playing it normal for now. Hopefully you can bear with me through this. I discovered last time that I forgot to switch to controls. Actually, I was using custom controls last time. Let's switch this to lock on and this to pod program. Other than that, yeah, this is what I want. Alright. So, if you do happen to be playing this game at home, I would highly recommend against playing with the keyboard controls. I did manage to make it through the tutorial with keyboard controls in normal mode, and I did not want to go any further because the keyboard controls are nearly unusable. If it is at all possible to play this game using a controller, I highly recommend you do so. Seeing as this is an RPG, and a voice-acted one as well, there's going to be a lot of talking in the beginning, so I am going to be going silent for a bit after we start the game, but hopefully you can enjoy other people's voices for a bit while we make it through the little bit of an exposition dump we've got at the beginning. So, without further ado, let us start the game.
Everything that lives is designed to end. We are perpetually trapped in a never-ending spiral of life and death. Is this a curse? Or some kind of punishment? I often think about the god who blessed us with this cryptic puzzle, and wonder if we'll ever have the chance to kill him.
This is Command. Yorha Squadron, come in.
2B here. All units have penetrated the stratosphere. Autopilot systems green across the board.
This is Operator 6-0. All units confirmed.
We've passed the 50-kilometer threshold and are proceeding toward the target.
Understood. Once you reach their anti-air defenses, proceed to manual attack formation. Then destroy the Goliath-class unit by any means necessary, and gather what data you can.
Understood. H down. All units activate manual mode and rely on visuals to evade.
Already engaged. Free movement unlocked.
Origin point of long-range lasers confirmed. B down. Our HO229 cancelers are ineffective.
Alert. Enemy unit sighted ahead.
Requesting permission to engage.
Permission granted.
What an introduction, and I lost my grip on the English language for a second there. What an introduction, am I right? I apparently cannot speak at the moment, but let's try to continue speaking anyway. What an introduction, am I right?
1D down. Assuming captain's duty.
I guess I'm the captain now. So, as you can see, this game is a scrolling shooter.
Multiple surrounding enemy air units confirmed. Requesting permission to assume mobile configuration.
Permission granted.
Sorry, I had to give the game a little chance to talk there. As you can see, this game is a scrolling shooter, also a directional shooter. I believe the proper term for this is twin stick. I apologize on my lack of knowledge of shooter terminology. I don't play a lot of shooters. I assure you, this is absolutely all there is to the game. There are absolutely...
I think 4B down. "2B to Operator 6-0. All allied units down. The operation is compromised. Awaiting further orders."
Operator to 2B. We need you to rendezvous with Unit 9S and begin gathering data on the local terrain.
Understood.
This is absolutely all there is to the game, obviously. Definitely no more mechanics that'll be introduced later on. It's just flying and shooting. Now you have to go through some doors in a sequence that I think, at least, is reminiscent of Return of the Jedi. Don't know if that was intentional or if it's just a common enough sci-fi trope that I should have expected it to crop up here. Anyway, we're flying into this factory, blowing up some weird shooty robot dudes, and leveling up. So, seeing as this is a collaboration with Square Enix, you're going to be seeing a lot of RPG mechanics present here, like leveling up, getting new weapons, that sort of thing. Personally, action RPGs are actually probably my favorite genre of games. Which is interesting, because there are actually not many action RPGs that I would put up among my favorite games of all time, but I just really like the idea of getting into a story while also getting into the real action of fighting like this. Personally, I'm not much of a strategist, which is why turn-based RPGs aren't really my favorite, but I do tend to get into them if there's a really good story.
Activating short-range attack gear. Alert. Large enemy group detected.
Yes, I'm aware of that.
So, as I'm sure you were able to guess then, but as I'm sure you're definitely able to tell now, I was not being completely truthful when I claimed there were no more mechanics to this game. This, as a matter of fact, is going to be the meat and bones of the game. Running around on the ground, shooting, and also using our weapons, our short-range weapons. You've got your typical Platinum game fare here. You've got your light attacks, your heavy attacks. You've got a bit of shooting going on here too. That's not the most common thing in Platinum games, but we've got it as a mechanic here, so might as well make use of it. Really, if you're playing this game, you're almost going to want to be shooting from the very moment you gain control of the shooting to the end of the final boss, because shooting is honestly so helpful in this game.
Enemies destroyed.
Not quite. Is that our target?
Negative. This enemy is unrelated. Proposal: dispatch it as swiftly as possible.
You don't say.
So here we have our first, I suppose this is a mini-boss of the game. You'll notice that its name is displayed in some odd characters that we aren't able to read. Fear not, its name will be revealed to us in due time. Not for quite a while, but in due time.
Recovered.
2B, I'm transmitting your pod program.
Pod program download complete.
So there, I used my pod program. For right now, the pod program is just a gigantic laser. I'll be honest, my first playthrough of the game, I really barely ever used pod programs when I didn't need to. I'll try to do a little bit differently this time, but don't expect me to be relying on them too much.
Better make sure he's actually dead next time. That was dangerous, man. You're 2B, right? My name's 9S. I'm here to provide support.
Copy that.
So, was that big old buzzsaw the Goliath you came here to take out?
No, just another defensive system.
Oh. Well, I guess we have to find the target then, huh? I've got a flight unit, so I'll take a look around the perimeter.
All right, I'll work my way inside from the ground.
So there we just met 9S, as he said. 9S is, I will admit, my favorite character of the game. Oh right, we're supposed to shoot this down. I promise I've played this game before. I haven't played the tutorial in a while though, as I'm sure you're probably able to tell. As I was saying, 9S is my favorite character in the game. We will be learning more about him in due time, as I'm sure you have been able to guess. I mean, we're only in the tutorial area, I can't rush things too much. I was talking about story a bit earlier, how a story will often be the thing that gets me hooked on a turn-based RPG. And the thing is that oftentimes I don't find that the action RPGs I've played have too strong of stories. Possibly because they're often quite a bit shorter than most turn-based RPGs I've played. There are exceptions, of course. I have made my way through Xenoblade Chronicles 2, another personal favorite of mine. But in all honesty, among my favorite action RPGs of all time is actually the Mega Man Star Force series.
2B? Ma'am?
What is it?
I was going to send you the map data I collected earlier.
Do it.
As I was saying, one of my favorite action RPG series is actually the Mega Man Star Force series, which, if you're not familiar with it, I don't blame you. It doesn't exactly get a lot of good press. Barely anybody seems to know about it, and the people that do tend to not be particularly fond of it, especially those who have played Battle Network. I personally have never actually played a Battle Network game, so I can't really make a solid judgment on how it compares to Star Force, or how, rather, Star Force compares to it. But I suppose the main point I'm trying to make here is that the Star Force games are very light on story. They did do a bit better in the second and third games, but the first game especially has almost no story to speak of. Well, it has a story, but it's an incredibly generic one. But I'm happy to say that this game, like Xenoblade 2, has quite the story. It'll be full of lots of...
Exit confirmed closed.
So open it.
Negative. Nearby enemies are jamming our signal.
Nothing's ever easy.
It's full of lots of philosophy references, lots of symbolism, stuff like that. Stuff that I'm not going to pretend to understand half of, but personally, I still got a fair amount out of the story, and I hope you can too, even if you're not too familiar with a lot of the philosophy that shows up in this game. Frankly, to find out a lot of the little philosophical references and details, we're going to have to be pouring our way through a lot of little game menus, and frankly, that's not exactly my favorite thing to be doing while playing action games. I like to be, you know, in the action. So we are not going to be doing too much pouring through menus, but if you happen to be interested, I invite you to check out some wikis, because there is a lot of interesting little details buried throughout the game that I might wind up glossing over. Which direction do I go? I always lose my orientation in this room. I believe it's this direction. Yes, this is new stuff. Do you believe? I may have gone the wrong way. I did go the wrong way. Was this the wrong way? Yeah. Okay. So I want to go out of this door. There we go. This is where I want to be.
You know, ma'am, I'm glad you're here.
Why?
Scanners like me mostly work alone. Scouting out enemy lines and all that. I don't usually get a partner. It's kind of fun.
Emotions are prohibited.
Sorry, ma'am.
And another thing, stop calling me ma'am.
Huh?
It's unnecessary.
All right, then. To be it is.
So that line there, emotions are prohibited. When I first heard it, it's what really made me expect this game to be fairly 1984 style. As we'll quickly find out throughout the course of the game, that rule really doesn't seem to be very strictly enforced, aside from people tossing it around from time to time. Is this a ladder? Yes, it is. It's a bit hard to pick out this ladder from the background, but we're going to climb it and see where it leads us. I don't actually remember where it leads us. Onto this platform, this lovely platform. So, that rule, other than people just kind of casually tossing it around every once in a while, doesn't really seem to be very strictly enforced, but we'll see the reasons for it later on. I'm kind of teasing a lot of stuff here. Frankly, a lot of what I'm saying gets closer to spoiler territory than I really should be getting. The story, it's not going to be... The story, I suppose you could say, is a bit of a slow burn. It's a real thinker. I've heard people say that this is the game that really starts to put gaming on the same level of ability to discuss philosophy as things like film and literature have been.
This place sure is big.
I guess humans used to use it as a weapons factory, but now it's just crawling with machines. The enemy seems to have repurposed the facility to increase their overall machine production.
So if we don't destroy it, they'll just keep coming.
Frankly, I think that's a really good thing, seeing as I don't really see why games should be considered any less of a storytelling medium than films or literature have been for quite a while now. I think a lot of the reason why it's not considered as such is because it is such a new art form. But if we've got games coming out like this that are going to help people see the artistic merit of games, then, well, that's a good thing. And I am close to death. I'm going to try not to die in a tutorial this time because, well, other than being rather embarrassing, it would also be a bit of a major setback, seeing as it's impossible to save in the tutorial, meaning that if you die anywhere in the tutorial, you have to go all the way back to the beginning. A bit on the obnoxious side, but, you know, it does really force you to get the...
What?
It's just accessing random, nonsensical data from the old world. There's no actual meaning behind anything machines do.
Thank you for another day of hard work. Please thank you for a job well done.
As I was saying, the fact that you can't save in the tutorial and have to redo the whole thing every time you die, it's a little bit on the obnoxious side, but at the same time, I do see that it definitely forces you to really get a handle on the mechanics before you go any further in the game, so it's definitely tolerable. And I suppose as we're fighting off these baddies, and not really doing much else, I suppose it's as good a time as any to talk about what I want to do with this series. I do plan on turning this into a series, to at least some degree. I don't really want to make a standalone video, because I think this game is deserving of more than a standalone video, but at the same time, I am rather busy a lot of the time, so, and frankly, living with a roommate means that I don't always get a lot of privacy all the time. So, how often I'll be able to make videos like these, I really don't know. So, don't expect anything like a weekly upload. But, hopefully I will be able to make a few more videos of this. And continue to show off the game. If it is okay to say what I would like to do with a whole big video of this, or a whole big series of this, if I get the chance, I certainly do hope to play the game through.
Apparatus detected on enemies. Close range combat is advised.
I know.
Play the game through to at least the true ending. Those of you who aren't familiar with the game, it does in fact have multiple endings. 26 of them, to be precise. There are 5 main story endings, those being endings A through E. E being the true ending of the game, the real ending of the story. But A through D exist there too, and there's also the 21 additional endings that most of the time you can get through dying in stupid ways or completing stupid small objectives. One of the endings you do actually get through dying during the tutorial. I happened to see that ending twice. The first time I tried to record this video in hard mode, but I didn't think you guys would want to sit through that, so we're back on normal mode now. But it does mean we will be coming back here at, I he might be seeing it right now, the way things are going. It does mean that at some point I will have to come back here and let myself get killed. But that brings me on to my next point, which is that ultimately I would hope to make a series where I can get all 26 endings of the game. Not necessarily all the side quests, because I admit I'm the kind of person that will maybe do a couple side quests early in the game and then gets distracted by how invested I get in the main story and just focuses on that for the rest of my time. But I would like to do a few more side quests than I did on my first playthrough.
I surveyed the entire factory, but couldn't find anything resembling our target.
Maybe they, I don't know, moved it somewhere?
I would like to at least...
Is that?
You mean the birds? Yeah, there's more plants and animals here than there used to be. Probably because the environment's changed.
As I was saying before I was so rudely interrupted, I would like to make it through all 26 endings of the game. Not necessarily 100% it, because I probably won't be doing all the side quests, but I would like to do some more side quests than I did in my first playthrough of the game. There's something I'm a bit curious about. Can I? No, looks like that would be the way I would have to go. I apologize for being a bit cryptic here. There is something that I will be showing off in the not too distant future that relates to what I'm very cryptically saying right now, but the point is, I want to do more side quests than I did on my first playthrough. I want to get all the endings, and I want to go back and get the true ending, which is when you pick a specific choice in the true ending that I didn't pick on my first playthrough.
There should be another facility across that bridge. It's a bit of a hike, but should we check it out? It's not like Command to get a location wrong. I guess even they get bad intel from time to time, huh?
I wouldn't bet on that.
Alert. High power jamming detected. No response from long-range communications.
Doesn't matter. I'll just take him out.
So here's our battle against two of these buzzsaw guys. As you can see, they don't leave themselves open for particularly long. So if you didn't believe me before that you want to be constantly shooting, hopefully you will after seeing this fight. Also, something that's incredibly helpful in this fight is evading, which I am doing a very poor job of right now. So I'd like to do all the endings, and I'd like to get the real true ending, which I did not select the option you need to select for on my first playthrough, and once we eventually reach that far off distant future, I believe you will be able to see why. But like I said, that is quite the distant future, and for now, I think we ought to be more worried about some giant buzzsaws.
Is that?
Target enemy detected.
And here we have the first boss. This really is the sort of first boss that you're going to expect out of Platinum games. If you're not familiar with them, they really are very well known for having quite spectacle boss fights. That really wasn't the correct term, but if you're familiar with some of their other works, like Bayonetta or Metal Gear Rising, you'll know, especially from the latter, how iconic some of their boss fights can be. I don't necessarily mean iconic, that was not exactly the correct word to use, but how big and how impactful their bosses are. Iconic would be the word I would use to describe Metal Gear Rising's first boss. It's, I would say, absolutely the most famous Platinum Games boss.
To me!
What's your status?
This is the target. I'm going to destroy it.
Right. I'll provide support.
I would say that the first boss of Metal Gear Rising is absolutely my favorite Platinum Games boss too. Simply because of the sheer spectacle of it, and especially that final cutscene when you defeat the boss. If you aren't familiar with the first boss of Metal Gear Rising, I would highly recommend you familiarize yourself with it, because it's quite the event. But, you know, this ain't a bad first boss too. It's certainly threatening,
Alert.
and it's got
Enemy
its
attack from below.
fair share of spectacle as well. Yep, I've evaded it. Now, one problem I will say I have with this boss is that first of all, this isn't going to be the last time you're fighting it. Not at all. It appears several more times throughout the course of the game. But you're never really given the chance on foot from this perspective to whittle its health bar all the way down to zero. Which personally I think would be a really awesome fight, just to show off how dangerous this thing can be.
Boost!
9S!
Black box signal detected. No response to communications.
I'm going after him.
We're really only able to tell how dangerous this beast is from cutscenes like that.
Send a support request to command.
Negative. Communications have been jammed.
And I mean, even in that case, there's absolutely no reason why 2B shouldn't have been able to dodge that attack. But sometimes, you know, you just gotta do cutscene things for cutscene's sake. Either way, we're climbing up the monster. Not quite Shadow of the Colossus style, but in a similar vein, I suppose. That's a game that Okay, that machine's head got stuck in the wall of the Goliath unit, sure. Anyway, as I was saying, I've not actually played Shadow of the Colossus myself. I wish I had the opportunity to. I don't actually own any of the PlayStations, but if I did, I would absolutely be playing that game. And now it's time to defend our partners. Ow. And not get the crap beaten out of us like I am at the moment. There we go. Got rid of their shields. Let's actually take them out.
I have to help 9S.
You know it.
I have to repair him. Pod, get me staunching gel and logic virus vaccines. Then access the...
Inadvisable. The subject's vital signs are too poor to attempt field repair in
Shut up!
current...
Just do what I say!
2B. Just go.
You shut up too.
We're soldiers. We take pride in our service.
HO-229 Flight Unit. Command 677 received. Usage rights transferred from 9S to 2B. Requesting acknowledgement.
Please.
All right.
So, right there, you saw, that is going to be my first little problem with this game, because it's absolutely not perfect, I'll give it that. As much as I was seeing...
Talk? I didn't know the machines had that kind of intelligence.
I found a weakness in the target. Hacking in to provide support.
As much as I was singing the praises of the game earlier, it does...
The control on the enemy's upper arm. Use your pod. Should be able to take it over.
I told you to shut up!
Control of upper arm. Seized from enemy unit. Marking weak point.
Got it.
Let's see if I can actually finish my sentence this time. I was singing the praises of this game earlier, but it is absolutely not a perfect game.
Seize its control system.
Affirmative. Infiltrating enemy subunit. Behavior table adjusted. Balance controls overridden. Enemy unit subjugation complete.
And the problem in this case, I think, is how quickly 2B seems to get attached to 9S, especially since she goes to quite great lengths to keep him at a bit of a distant place later on in the game that we will see in not too long. But for now, we're getting close to the end of this fight, and at the end of the fight, we're going to be getting a big exposition dump.
Die already!
So, I think I'd better wrap up my thoughts and stop talking for now.
Talk about bringing the battle to them. 2B.
Contact command. Request assistance.
No. It doesn't look like that's going to be necessary.
Oh, great.
I don't imagine that this is going to end well. The black box. It's ready.
Right.
Requesting destruction of enemy hostiles via black box reaction.
Request accepted.
2B. It was an honor to fight with you. Truly.
The honor was mine.
Well, it seems that my memory wasn't quite correct, and attempting to drag my recording thing out of the way has brought it right to the center of my screen. But as I was saying, it seems my memory wasn't quite correct, and yes, I know how to work the system menu. And the exposition dump wasn't actually right after that boss, so I think that makes this a perfect time to save and finish off this episode, so that we can take a look at all this new information next time. So thank you for joining me for my first foray into the world of Nier Automata on camera, and I hope you will be joining me next time. And for now, we're gonna call that the end.